Cinemajaw is sponsored by Overcast, an independent podcast app that embraces the open world of podcasting instead of locking it down. No exclusives, no premium content, no paywalls. Just a great podcast app for everyone. Get it for free in the App Store. And we thank them for their support. You're listening to Cinemajaw, the greatest movies podcast ever, recorded on location from Rye the Movie Guy's house in Chicago. My name is Matt Kay, and with me is
Rye the Movie Guy, and sitting right alongside us is Filmy and Phil.
How we doing, guys?
This week on Cinemajaw, Matt, it's about time. We have a Marvel movie to talk about.
It sure is, dude. Wow, and this one has been delayed, I think 3 or 4 times. Crazy because of the COVID pandemic. Finally, we get to see Black Widow.
Yep, it was 2020. It kept getting pushed back. They finally took it off the schedule. We finally sat down in a theater, Matt, and saw Black Widow.
It more than anything else felt like a return to normalcy for me.
And JawHeads, this is a spoiler-free review because Black Widow comes out this Friday, July 9th. This is an early review for the JawHeads.
That's right. Yes. No spoilers. No
Correct.
Spoilers, right.
But besides that, we have more going on, don't we, Phil?
We sure do. It is July 1st as of the time of recording this, so that means it is time for a brand new monthly theme. We're going to disclose that a little bit later, and we got a good fact and a good clip for you guys.
And we have 3 reviews, the aforementioned Black Widow, Summer of Soul, and the new one from HBO Max, No Sudden Moves.
It was a very big weekend in general for streaming movies. You had Summer of Soul come out, No Sudden Move, and also The Tomorrow War, which we're going to talk about next week.
Oh, yeah.
We're holding that one for next week, right?
Right.
So in honor of The Tomorrow War, I thought, Matt, you should take Phil on in Tomorrow War movie trivia. Movies either with tomorrow in the title or war in the title.
Okay. All right. I feel like I could beat Phil on this.
I hope so, Matt. I mean, Stump the Kabinski last week wasn't all that shining.
Didn't I win? You didn't stump the Kabinski.
Well, you got 3 out of 5. Technically, Ryan won because it was really a competition between the two of us.
Correct. We were betting on that.
Okay.
In lieu of a top 5, we're going back to the film discussions with Black Widow. We're going to touch on everything from best prison movies to what makes a good Marvel film to favorite crash landings in movies, Matt.
It's a jam-packed jaw, Ryan.
It is. And we have coming attractions to look at. So let's get this thing rolling here. Matt, it is July. We have a new theme of the month. Why don't you do the honors?
Oh, thanks, Ryan. It is time to celebrate the woman of the hour, Scarlett Johansson, Black Widow herself. She has been around in film since she was 8 years old. I came to know her through Ghost World, and here we are celebrating her for the entire month of July.
Yeah, Matt, we actually also are going to open up the month with a brand new fact. As you said, she was 8 years old when she started. That's our fact. Johansson started very, very young. Her first role was unaccredited, and it was in a skit during the first year of Conan O'Brien's term on the late night. It was in 1993, the same year that I was born. And later that year, she starred in the off-Broadway production of Sophistry with Ethan Hawke. I don't know if that's how you say it. I'm not a theater guy, but I think it's Sophistry.
No, it's Hawke. You said it right.
Yeah, there's an E. It's
yeah, I know. It's
Hawke. And that was, so speaking back to Sophistry, it was her first stage role, and she only had 1 line. 1 line still counts, though.
It counts.
More than we've had.
I mean, so that's not film, but she's been acting a very, very long time.
I'm shocked to hear that she started at 8 years old, to be honest. I mean, I obviously know her. Ghost World, Lost in Translation. She was like a teenager, young adult. I didn't know she was acting as a kid. I had no idea.
Yeah. No, this is news to me. Good fact, Phil.
Thank you.
I have not seen the movie The Horse Whisperer, but I understand she's in that as well with Matt Damon. I got to catch up with it now. It's a horse movie and it's Scarlett Johansson month. I'm going to watch The Horse Whisperer this month.
Not to mention Matt Damon. He pops up in everything. We're going to be talking about that, I think.
I agree. So we have been looking at trying to tackle some movie trailers on the show. We call them coming attractions.
That's what everyone calls them.
This week, Matt, Don't Breathe 2. This is the sequel to what was sort of a surprise hit, Don't Breathe, about a blind man who has these criminals break into his house, and then he ends up being really a weird and strange dude.
Right.
Who ends up going on almost like a killing spree and then some, almost impregnates a woman with a
turkey baster.
Very crazy stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. The first one, it was kind of like Saw meets The Strangers meets House of a Thousand Corpses in a way.
And you can also throw in a Quiet Place, even though it hadn't come out yet. But,
Sure.
Sound plays a big thing with
Very
Don't
much
Breathe.
so. High concept horror, right? I mean, it was something different, something original. And now here we are getting a sequel, Rye. I mean, they just can't leave well enough alone.
I never thought Don't Breathe would have had a sequel, to be honest. Even though it was a modest hit at the box office, I still didn't think to myself, yes, this is a movie we need a sequel to.
No, me neither. I mean, yeah, so we just watched this trailer, and by all of my accounts here, I'm confused. Is he a good guy now? What's going on? More of the same high concept. We get to see this dude who's like a badass blind guy who like kind of hunts by sound, taking on a new batch of home intruders. Now there's a little girl in the mix. Is he a good guy?
It also looks like a huge genre shift. This looks like an action movie. I don't know if you guys... I wasn't scared at all during that entire trailer. Am I wrong here?
No, the first one was pretty brutal. Definitely not an action movie, but it has its like sort of action moments. There's a gun in it.
Yes.
Yeah, but this one's like balls to the walls action.
Maybe.
Right. The first one's paced more like a horror film where it's got, the quiet moments that everybody's sort of holding their breath for. I think that may happen. We see a scene in the trailer where the blind guy is actually laying in a pool of water, and it's the waves of the water, the ripples of the water that give him the feeling of where to shoot. Maybe that moment when we see it in the movie actually plays out for a scare more than the action that we're seeing. Who knows?
My hopes are low for this. I liked the first one a lot. I thought it was really interesting, but I don't know if this needs to be another horror universe.
I agree. We heard from Jawhead Erin Schmelling on Facebook, and she wrote in the new trailer for the sequel to Don't Breathe seems intense, and I'm now wondering how some of the criminals in it are connected to the first one. What I saw in the trailer, it makes it hard for a blind man to ever make up for his past unless he maybe dies or turns himself into the police. And I agree. I don't know how he could be a good guy this time around. That's sort of what you were hinting at. I mean, this is a evil man.
Yeah, he did some heinous stuff in that first movie. So, well, I guess we'll have to watch it and find out.
We'll probably have to get a review for the Jawheads, Matt.
We will. That's how that works, Rye.
Yes. Speaking of reviews, Matt, it was a big one. I walked into the movie theater, and there was Matt and his son Parker sitting there waiting, holding a seat for me at the press screening of Black Widow.
That's right, Ryan. The long-awaited and often delayed Black Widow movie is finally here. It sports an all-star cast of Scarlett Johansson, of course, Florence Pugh, Rachel Weisz, David Harbour, and others. This serves as the true return to a normal U.S. blockbuster box office action-packed summer. But is it too late? Do we even care about a Black Widow origin after her demise in the MCU? Ryan and I headed to the theater to find out and brought Parker.
Before I was an Avenger, I made mistakes. And a lot of enemies.
His call sign's Taskmaster. He controls the Red Room. They're manipulative, fully conscious, but no choices.
I should have come back for you. How many others are there?
Enough.
Natasha Romanoff is on the run after the events of Captain America: Civil War. When she receives a package from her estranged sister, Yelena, played by Florence Pugh, she's forced into a conspiracy that involves her origin, her family, the mysterious Red Room, and her fate as a once and future Avenger. The first 15 minutes of this movie, Rye, were amazing to me. We see the young Black Widow as a child. Her life in the Ohio suburbs seems idyllic and serene, but all is not as it seems. I have to say that this sequence, along with the opening credits over an eerie rendition of Smells Like Teen Spirit, are some of the best moments we have seen in the MCU to date. Almost a tough act to follow for the rest of the movie. I won't spoil any more of the plot, but I have to say we do get a glimpse into what Romanoff went through to become the Avenger we know today. The movie deals with a subtext of female agency, surviving trauma, and obviously family neglect. It's rather deep stuff for the most part, and I think they pull it off pretty well. Yes, there is a glowy thing that they're all chasing, but this is an espionage movie that lines up more with the better early James Bond movies and The Winter Soldier than it does with the standard Avengers flick. And that nuance in tone is what kept this MCU thing so interesting to me. The cast is all fantastic. Harbour as the father figure super soldier known as Red Guardian is comedic and perfect. Rachel Weisz as the mother figure is believable in all her stoicism and strength. Florence Pugh, however, steals the show as Black Widow's sister. She has some of the funniest moments, the best action, and since we know the fate of ScarJo, a bit like Solo suffered, she's one of the only characters that has any real stakes in the movie that we care about. Where the movie falters, unfortunately, is Scarlett Johansson. She's okay at best. She's simply outacted by the rest of the cast and looks rather small next to them. This is higher level Marvel, not my favorite of the bunch, but certainly in the upper half of the movies. What did you think?
Interesting, Matt. So I ended up just breaking this down into positives and negatives.
Okay.
Because everybody, all the Jawheads know I'm not the biggest Marvel fan.
Well, I'm also glad you didn't just go ahead and write a second review.
No. So here we go. Here's my pros, and then I'll list my cons. How's that sound?
That sounds good.
With that?
Yeah,
all right.
do it.
Let's go. Here's my pros. I love the theme of family created by the makeshift family unit you've talked of. The cast was fantastic, especially Harbour and Rachel Weisz and Florence Pugh. I agree. Those three are great. And I left Pugh there for last because I think she needs her own highlight here. She absolutely steals the spotlight from Black Widow herself. All right. The look of Taskmaster, who is the villain in the film, and how Taskmaster fights like the other Avengers was fantastic. Loved it. Now on to the cons, and I have a few. It felt like this movie came a little too late, and I'm not speaking of the pandemic. I'm speaking of Black Widow should have had an earlier slot in the MCU lineup. It just felt like watching this is like, are they just doing this because they feel bad?
Because
that was
she deserves
sort of the vibe.
it.
Yeah. It had that vibe, and I wish it didn't, but it did. I love the look of Taskmaster, as I said, but what a terrible name. I hate Taskmaster.
Well, that's the name of the character.
Well, who cares?
That's like saying, I hate
it.
Spider-Man.
Well, I just don't like Taskmaster. It's stupid. Not a fan of the Avengers humor. I always talk about this, and they go to it all the time. Pops up in every single MCU movie. This one especially, where they're talking about at one point, like, well, it was one of the big Avengers. And then she says, well, who's one of the other big Avengers? Oh, he came from space. Like that kind of humor. I can't roll my eyes back into my head far enough, even though I heard you chuckling over there, Matt K.
That's what makes a good cinematic universe.
Like a schoolgirl. You were eating it up.
When you bake a cake,
spoon.
you got to go around the sides and fold the batter in, right? You fold it in.
I'm going to go on.
That's how you get the layers,
Let me
buddy.
go on with my cons, all right? The action scenes were subpar and unrealistic, even for MCU movies.
So wrong.
There's a scene where they're fighting in midair. It's ridiculous.
Awesome.
Terrible. Because
Amazing.
that brings me to my last con, and I've had this problem with many MCU movies in the past. And the question is this: what keeps Black Widow from being hurt? Does she have some sort of special suit or a superpower that she can't get hurt? She gets blown up in a car, has car accidents where it flips over, falls from the sky. Nothing hurts her. From my understanding, if I have this correct, she's a human being that's trained in the martial arts or whatever she's trained in, but nothing that should keep her from not suffering.
But you're
some
totally
wounds.
fine with Batman, right?
But at least they explain that his suit is the reason why he's got these protections.
It's just body armor.
And they even talk about, he's aching and whatnot in there.
So is she. She's got bruises all over her and stuff.
Not much. And some of the things she goes through are like, okay, that more or less would have killed any human.
She's a superhero, Ryan.
And but she doesn't have a superpower.
She's still a superhero.
I just hate that. So
she's a super spy. You know, it's like James Bond. How does he go through all that stuff and come out okay?
I hear you. And I try to lean into that line of believability and go with it. But it's like, boy, do they push it so far. I mean, she's literally like standing on a piece of debris that's falling from the sky and fighting someone. It's like, all right, this is getting a bit ridiculous. She doesn't have spider senses or anything that's made her be able to do that. She is still just a human being. It's very far-fetched. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Agree to disagree.
Now, on to the part that you loved so much was the beginning of this movie, which was really good. I love the Smells Like Teen Spirit cover. That was really cool. But when the family is on the run, and this is obviously, again, not getting into too many spoilers, but we know that they're Russians, and so you get the idea they got to leave the country here. It really gave me vibes of the television show The Americans, which I watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
And in the show, the Americans, it sees this Russian spy family have to leave the U.S., and in that particular scenario, they're leaving, they're going to get on a train and go back to Russia, and they stop for dinner. And they stop at McDonald's. This is in the 1980s. And there's like, you know, some type of American song playing. And then they stop for McDonald's and people are eating the Happy Meals and the families are smiling. And it gives you that sense of Americana in 1980s. And I thought, wow, they really captured that in about a 5-minute span in Black Widow, where we get Don McClane's American Pie playing.
Yeah.
We get a high school football game that they drive by. Just quick imagery really fast as it's just conjuring it up, the feeling of Americana, and they do it within 5 minutes. You have the vibe. It was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Summer in Ohio with the fireflies and everything else.
Right.
Yeah, it was good.
So in general, my overall take on this, being a non-Marvel fan, would be that this more or less is in the middle of the pack as far as MCU movies. It didn't wow me in any way, but I didn't hate it. I think the group that you mentioned, the family group with David Harbour, Rachel Weisz, and Florence Pugh, makes the movie worthwhile.
Yeah. I agree with a lot of your criticisms, except for the action. I thought the action was amazing, especially the skydiving scene. It's like Ethan Hunt. It's like Mission Impossible. He's just a human being, and he does all this crazy ass stuff.
Wait,
you know?
Wait, you think Tom Cruise is just a human being?
Right.
All right.
Yes.
Come on.
So, well, maybe not, but at least Ethan Hunt is, right? So that doesn't bother me at all. But you're absolutely right. This movie almost feels like they just gave it to Scarlett Johansson because she deserves it. And she deserved it a long freaking time ago. And I think maybe the moment did pass, but they made a good movie around her. Anyway.
I'll give you the Marvel humor that I always criticize. One moment that is very funny, and I think this is in the trailer to some degree, is that Black Widow always makes this pose. She sort of falls from the sky, lands in like a cat-like pose, and then flips her head up. And Florence Pugh's character makes fun of her for doing this.
That was hilarious.
And then later in the movie, Florence Pugh does it. And that got a laugh out of me. If it was that creative all the time, maybe I wouldn't roll my eyes.
What about the vest? That's not Marvel humor, but that was great.
Pretty funny.
That was good.
Yeah.
It was really good.
So talking about Marvel in general, Matt, I'm going to open this discussion up with a big question. What makes a good MCU movie?
What makes a good MCU movie? Respect to the source material, where they don't take all these crazy things and change them and give Spider-Man organic web shooters just because. No good reason for that. Stupid. The tone. It's got to be, if it's a funny movie, it's got to be funny. If it's an espionage movie, it's got to have intrigue. If it's an action movie, give me good action. But it's got to have like an even tone throughout. Like the Thor movies, the tone was just off, the first couple of Thor movies. And it's also, and this is something we didn't talk about enough, it's got to have a good subtext. It's got to say something about society, the larger world outside of the MCU, like real life, which Black Widow really, really did well. Like, probably only a few other Marvel movies have done something that deep quite as well as Black Widow does.
I do like when they have the good subtext. I agree with you there. I will also say for me, the best ones are when the story's not out of control. And lately, the MCU movies just keep getting bigger, louder, and more out of control. It's everything's going to end the right. universe. And then it's like, guys,
just tone it down a notch.
Tone it down a little bit. When they're dealing with multiple heroes and villains, it's a little out of control. I like the ones that are a little bit more concise. The first Guardians movie, the first Iron Man movie, Spider-Man Homecoming, those are more my jam. So for me, I like those with some subtext. I can get down with a MCU movie.
Yeah,
at that point.
I'm with you.
But one thing that happens, and I do want to say, Jawheads, no surprise here, with Black Widow, there's a post-credit scene.
Of course.
And it was actually, if we could almost at this point, maybe somewhere down the road, maybe for Patreons, rank our favorite MCU post-credit scenes. There's that many.
That would, yeah. I mean, there's one after every movie, and there's over 20 now, right?
I don't know them all. I think a lot of them actually are pretty dumb, you know.
Especially the first few.
This might be one of the best one. It's heartfelt, and then it adds something, right? So it adds something, and it got me talking to you on the way out, and you're explaining all this stuff to me. Marvel's doing a lot of television now with Disney Plus, and it's getting to the point where maybe there's going to be crossover, obviously crossover, but are we getting to the point where MCU is going to make us have to watch the TV shows to understand the MCU? And are you cool with that?
So the answer is just no. That's not the case. So the thing that we get at the end of Black Widow was supposed to have come out in April of 2020. And it didn't because it got pushed. So what we saw at the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier just happened to fall before. But it would have been just a bonus in that show. Whereas at the end of Black Widow, it was kind of... it was supposed to be the premiere. I don't think you need to watch WandaVision to understand Wanda's arc in the MCU. I don't think you need to watch certainly Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You'd be a little better served if you do watch them, and most people enjoy watching these, Ryan, because then you find out how Anthony Mackie becomes Captain America, you know?
Oh, he does?
Yeah. Spoiler alert.
Oh, well, I didn't watch the show. See?
But you know, he got the shield at the end of the movie. So
I know that.
You knew he was going to become Captain America. So this is just like, okay, so how does he become Captain America? And they show that.
Okay.
So it's like a betweener.
Well, I hope so because, okay, I watch a lot of movies, but I don't watch a lot of TV. I don't have a ton of time.
You watch way more TV than me.
No, I have specific
You just
shows.
said you watched The Americans. You watched the whole thing. I'd never even seen a single episode.
Well, I mean, The Americans was a great show, and it was recommended to me by Brian Tallarico, who is one of the best TV critics in the country. So he had said, watch The Americans, and I did it. But overall, I honestly don't watch that much TV. I mean, I watch about 150 movies a year. It leaves very little series. So I'm not going to now dedicate it to Marvel. If
You've
all
got
I'm going
time.
to watch...
That is such a BS excuse. You've got the time.
BS Matt.
Stop watching something that doesn't tie into your day job and watch the ones that do.
Here's the thing.
You also watch tons of TV.
No, I watch maybe 8 to 10
Ozarks?
series. 8 to 10 series a year. That's about it.
That's 8 to 10 more than I do.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to put Marvel in there because there's at least 8 to 10 good ones that I want to watch.
Marvel connects to movies that you're going to be reviewing.
I'm not a fan of Marvel. So my point is I'm not going to watch the TV.
You're not a fan of Marvel, but you watch the movies, so why not?
Because I do the podcast on Cinemajaw. I've said that numerous times. If we weren't doing Cinemajaw, I would have missed many of the movies. I still would see some because I'm a movie fan, but I wouldn't see all of them like I do. It's only because of Cinemajaw.
If James Bond had a TV show, would you watch it?
Probably not.
Yeah, you would.
Unless I heard it was absolutely excellent.
Have you not heard that the Marvel shows are absolutely...
heard that. No.
Come on.
Maybe more.
Only one of the Marvel shows is considered
WandaVision
excellent.
is
The other ones are pretty ubiquitously considered skippable.
Loki's a little too soon to tell, and I agree. Falcon and Winter Soldier was just okay.
See, there you go. All right. Big scene in Black Widow involves a prison break. Mm-hmm. They have to get David Arbor out of prison. We'll just say that. And this is one of the big action set pieces. It's set up pretty nice. And again, I had a couple issues with the actual action itself. It seems, again, a little bit unrealistic.
Oh,
but
that was so good.
It worked better than the skydiving scene.
I love the skydiving scene.
It did get me wondering, though. Best prison break scene or movie, and I don't want to hear Shawshank.
No Shawshank.
Yeah, don't give me Shawshank.
Because that, as we all know, is the best prison break of all time. I'm going to go with Logan Lucky. Not because it was like the best prison break in and of itself.
It's Daniel Craig who's in prison, right?
It is, and he's got the weirdest accent in this movie. Turns out Daniel Craig can do some pretty great accents. He plays such a strange character in Logan Lucky. Adam Driver and Channing Tatum is the third there. Channing Tatum is amazing in this movie. The whole cast is great. Daniel Craig gets arrested on purpose, so he has an alibi for this heist, you know? And then they have to break him out of jail to actually commit the crime and get him back in time. And the way they do that, all the machinations of how they move the pieces around, pretty brilliant.
That is a really good one, Matt.
Yeah.
Hats off to you. I forgot how good I enjoyed that film. All right. My pick here would be, it's a classic. 1963, The Great Escape.
Yeah.
This is Steve McQueen. Movie's based on a true story of Allied troops trying to escape from a World War II prison in which they tried to get over 100 troops out of the prison. So tunnels are dug, motorcycles are ridden, freedom is had. Classic movie. If you haven't seen it, well worth your time. I wrote one other one down when I was thinking Prison Breaks as sort of probably not the best of movies, but for
The
Prison
Rock.
Breaks, please. 2010, Russell Crowe teamed up with Elizabeth Banks in The Next 3 Days.
God, I don't even remember that, dude.
And in it, Elizabeth Banks plays a mother and wife to Russell Crowe, who's been convicted wrongfully of murder. And once it's gone through the courts and they figure out that she's not going to be able to get out, his plan then is to figure out how to break his wife out of prison. Pretty good when we're talking about Prison Break movies. So that would have been an honorable mention. And, you know, if the Jawheads haven't seen it, the next
Have
3
we ever
days.
done a top 5 Prison Breaks?
I don't know.
That's another one we could do a whole top 5 on, dude.
Can we throw that in the fish tank, Phil? He's looking it up. All right. Another great scene, as far as you're concerned, is this skydiving.
As far as I'm concerned, it's just a great scene in the movie. You don't got to qualify it.
I was a
right.
little let down by it, but it's what I would consider a crash landing, right?
Yeah.
Major set piece again, big action going on.
Did she get hurt, though? That's the question everybody wants to know.
Black Widow's falling on debris and standing on it. It's as ridiculous as the MCU gets. But it made me think. I'm going to ask Matt, what's your favorite crash landing in movies?
You know, there's so many good ones. I think about the Millennium Falcon skidding across ice right up to the edge of a cliff and, you know, not falling over. I'm sure that trope has been in many, many movies. But the one that came to my mind right away was Denzel Washington's crash landing in the movie Flight.
Oh, great one.
Yeah. It's I think at least somewhat based on what happened in the New York River. What is that? The Hudson?
You're completely off.
No, I know Sully was the movie they made about that.
Yeah.
But I think maybe they took a little bit of...
To clarify, Denzel actually flips the plane over.
Right,
I don't
it's
think that's
inverted.
ever happened in real life. I don't think that's ever happened.
Yeah, I don't think that's ever happened either. But that was so cool how he's like, the only way we can land this plane safely is if we flip it over. And by the way, I'm drunk as hell. And he lands it. He sticks it in the church. You see the church and they take the steeple off with their wings. It was, I mean, that's a good set piece right there. That was amazing. That's
a really good one. For mine, I was thinking just back a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, 2019, The Aeronauts, starring
I didn't see that, yeah.
Felicity Jones and Eddie Redmayne. And it's the movie about weather balloons and the two people who went higher than anyone in the world up to that point in time. And after a while, they got so high up that the balloon was freezing, that the gas valve at the top of the balloon freezes shut and they can't actually let the hot air out. And they just keep going higher and higher until they almost can't breathe. And Eddie Redmayne's character passes out. Eventually what happens is Felicity Jones climbs up on top of the balloon. It's a great action sequence, and actually puts her shoe into the valve and opens it up, and it starts to go down. Well, now it's going down. And because it was so high up, when it's coming down, it's going down
too fast,
way too fast. And so it starts going down. Now Eddie Redmayne's up. He realizes what's happening, and they start trying to dump everything out of the balloon to slow the descent, and they can't slow the descent. They actually end up cutting the basket that they're in off, and they end up turning basically the balloon into a parachute, and it comes crashing down into trees. I mean, what a sequence of events.
They're just holding on?
Yeah. I mean, those, you know how the ring around the balloon, it goes down.
I'm not
into
a balloonist,
ring.
but I get the idea.
It's wild, man. I love the Aeronauts.
Have you ever done a hot air balloon ride?
I've never have.
Phil's nodding his head. You did?
I come from Lisle, Illinois, known for Lisle Eyes to the Skies Festival, where they launch balloons every 4th of July. So I don't mean to brag, but more than once.
Really? So is that scary? What's that like?
He's bragging.
I mean, in the same way that I've never done it by myself. Like, I'm not Amelia Earhart. There's always some dude pulling the gas for me.
Right. A trained professional.
Yeah.
But you got to be a little bit nervous.
Was Amelia Earhart ever in a hot air balloon? I don't know where Phil was going with that.
She flew. I don't know.
She wore a flight helmet.
She can probably figure it out.
But you never?
No, never.
No, me
you?
neither. No.
I
would never.
I was going to say it's
you
actually...
would, though.
No, I don't know if I would. I'm scared of outdoor heights, I've always said. Indoor, if I'm in like a tall building, I can look out a window. But if I'm out with the air and the wind, it's not for me.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, even 2-3 stories up, I can get a little... locked up.
All right. I got another discussion question here because Rachel Weisz is in this movie, and I know that she's one of your favorite actresses, but I wanted to ask, what is your favorite Rachel Weisz movie?
Well, I don't know. Man, there's some really good ones. I mean, I love, actually, you're saying the favorite Rachel Weisz movie.
Yeah, that was no pun intended.
But I could go with the favorite.
You could go with the favorite.
I think you might go with the favorite.
I might go with the favorite.
How about this? The movie that I saw inside Black Widow, where I was like, man, she really reminds me of a character she was playing in The Brothers Bloom.
Okay, yeah.
This was directed by Ryan Johnson, stars Adrian Brody, and I can't remember who his brother was.
Throw it in the fish tank.
Throw it in the fish tank. I'm drawing a blank right now. But Rachel Weisz plays this sort of like goofy character.
Is it Heath Ledger?
No, it definitely wasn't.
Okay.
You're thinking of the Brothers Grimm.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Wow, which
definitely wasn't
Damon
Heath
and
Ledger.
Ledger. It was decent movie.
So it might have been Mark Ruffalo, but double check me on that. I don't know who the two brothers were. Just get me the whole damn cast, Phil. Rachel Weisz plays a very goofy character. She's a little bit more airheaded in The Brothers Bloom. Here she's intelligent Black Widow, but she's also a little off when it comes to emotions, wouldn't you say, in Black Widow?
Yeah.
And so it really reminded me of that, The Brothers Bloom, which I thoroughly enjoyed.
What was the movie she was just in with Saoirse Ronan, where they play lovers? You know what I'm talking about?
Are you thinking Kate Winslet and Saoirse Ronan?
Edit. Really? That wasn't Rachel Weisz? No. All right. Edit that out, Phil. All right. For me, yeah, I mean, the favorite is there, right? It's such an easy go-to that I would honestly throw in one that I think most people didn't see, My Cousin Rachel. Do you remember that one? Mm-hmm. It was just a really small indie film. I saw it at the Century, which is the art house theater here. And just so JawHeads get an idea, we talk about the Music Box a lot. It is the redheaded stepchild to the Music Box. It's the art house of art houses in Chicago. And it played this one. I think it was a press screening. Mm-hmm. A movie I normally probably would not have seen, but unlike Ryan, I like to get outside of my comfort zone and see movies that I don't think I will like, to be pleasantly surprised, as it was with this one. It's a Victorian era movie about a dead wife and a cousin, and she falls in love with the dead wife's widow or widower. Yeah, and is she or isn't she the murderer? And they keep you guessing for the whole movie. And it was written by the same author that wrote The Birds and Rebecca.
Interesting.
Yeah, the novel.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so there you go.
Wow, that's a deep cut, Matt K.
Deep cut.
I mean, I actually forgot all about the movie until you just mentioned it. It was all like coming back to me. Right.
Yeah.
My cousin Rachel.
Pretty good.
One last question in this discussion on Black Widow is all for you, Matt K, because I have no clue what this even means, but we are writing notes in Slack. And you had said, does the ending of this movie and where it sort of goes to, does it mean that phase 5 of the MCU is going to deal with, if I'm reading this correctly, the Dark Avengers?
Right. It's actually phase 4.
Sorry.
Bad note on my part.
Okay.
So phase 4 is the phase we're entering right now. And we'll say that at the end of Falcon and Winter Soldier, the person who had taken over as Captain America is now renamed U.S. Agent, right? Who is famously one of the Thunderbolts or Dark Avengers. The names have flip-flopped from time to time. There is a person who is in both, I don't want to spoil who it is, end credit scenes, and seems to be recruiting a group of let's say supervillain-esque or reformed supervillains. I think maybe, man, we're going to see the Thunderbolts or the Dark Avengers, call them what you will, but Marvel's answer to Suicide Squad, essentially.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's going to be
Dark
cool.
Avengers.
Dark Avengers is a great comic, man. You got to read it.
Really what you're telling me is there's no end to this MCU, is there?
Dude, so 80 years of comics, what do you think? I mean, there's a new issue every week.
This is really getting depressing.
It's never going to end.
Oh, my God.
Never going to end.
I thought She-Hulk sounded funny, but now She-Hulk
She-Hulk's
sounds
coming. We're
like
gonna
it's really going to happen.
We're getting a She-Hulk TV show.
Black Widow. Was there a jaw-dropping moment for you, Matt Kay?
Yes. I mentioned it in my review. It is that first 15 minutes blew me away. I honestly think it's the best 15 minutes MCU's ever put on the screen.
For my jaw-dropping moment, and it actually was just that jaw-dropping, was there's a disguise reveal near the end.
Yes.
Just leave it at that. That actually stunned me. I was like, what is going on? And actually confused me for about 2 or 3 minutes until they explained what was happening. I was like, whoa, came out of nowhere. Were you a little shocked?
No, I mean, it didn't take me 2 or 3 minutes to figure it out. It's just like a Mission Impossible thing.
It was strange. But I dug it. That was pretty cool.
I dug it too.
Movie poster quote?
Black Widow was worth the wait. Simple. To the point, Rye.
I went with Florence Pugh says, Black Widow who?
That's a good one. How many? She's going to eat her lunch, huh? I mean, I guess she's done.
Who?
ScarJo.
Well, done with the MCU, but not career-wise.
No, not career-wise.
Yeah, Jesus. How many Jaws for Black Widow? This is a big one, Matt
3 Jaws.
All right. He
Right
didn't
down
go
the
crazy. Thank the Lord. If you would have said 4, we might have had to have fisticuffs right here.
I've matured, Ryan.
Thank you. All right. 2.5 Jaws for Black Widow. I didn't hate it. I liked it. See?
It's a positive number of Jaws there.
JawHeads Black Widow will be in theaters and on Disney Plus July 9th. Once you see it and you hear this review, you agree, disagree, want to comment on anything that Matt said about the Dark Avengers.
Or Ryan said about how the action sucked.
Or how Phil said he was in a hot air balloon for his entire childhood. Any of it. Write us, feedback at cinemajaw.com, or you can always tweet us at Cinemajaw. What we are going to do is take a break, and when we come back, we have 2 reviews, Summer of Soul and No Sudden Move, plus Matt is taking Phil on in movie trivia. Stick with us. I had probably seen Scarlett Johansson a few times prior to 2003, Ghost World for sure. But the first time I really knew the name and knew she was going to be a star was when I saw her in Sofia Coppola's masterpiece, Lost in Translation. In this scene, she enjoys a Santori whiskey with Murray and talks about life.
What are you doing?
My husband's a photographer, so he's here working, and I wasn't doing anything, so I came along, and we have some friends that live here.
How long have you been married?
Oh, thank you. 2 years.
25 long ones.
You're probably just having a midlife crisis. Did you buy a Porsche yet?
You know, I was thinking about buying a Porsche.
JawHeads, I want you to do me a favor. Pull your phone out of your pocket and go to your YouTube app. Search for the Cinemajaw channel and hit subscribe. Really, please do it right now. This will do 2 things. 1, it helps us reach more people. We want to spread the good word about film, and you clicking subscribe really helps us do that. And 2, it costs you nothing. That's right. Subscribing to Cinemajaw on YouTube is fun and it's free. Think of it as a donation that doesn't even cost you anything. Even if you just listen to the podcast and never really watch the videos, you subscribing on YouTube helps us make the podcast better too. But please check out a few videos while you're there. We think they're pretty good. So right now, while you're listening, before you forget, take your phone out. It shouldn't even interrupt the show. And go to YouTube, search Cinemajaw, and hit subscribe. And thank you so much.
And we are back on Cinemajaw. Matt, before we get to our other two reviews and play some movie trivia, we threw a few items into the fish tank, and I know Phil, he always wants to come up to the top.
Of course.
Talk a little bit. So, heck, let's open up that fish tank.
Wait a moment! It's fish! Isn't it?
Fishy! Wake up! Wake up! No, Pat, it's a giant glass bowl. Hey, get some fish folk.
Who's coming with me besides Flipper? Here.
That's a Sicilian message. It means Luca Brasi sleeps with the fishes.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for letting me out this week. I do want to air some dirty jaw laundry, just correct some things that were said about me that were flagrantly untrue. Ryan said I spent my entire childhood in a balloon. I only spent a little bit. I went in there like 3 times, okay? I was born in a hospital like everyone else. I promise I'm something
Was it
special.
a hospital that was floating on balloons?
It wasn't. You guys made fun of me for not knowing who Amelia Earhart was, or like if she flew a balloon or not. I'm not the balloon guy. I still like cartoons. Nobody looked to me for balloon advice. I'll tell you the absolute wrong thing. That being said, we only had 2 in here. Pretty easy. So, and none of them bad news. Well, one of them's kind of bad news, but no streaming questions, so I'm happy. Our first one, have we ever done top 5 prison breaks? Hard no, absolutely not. The closest we had was just top 5 prison movies, prison in general. It's a different topic, so I think it's...
Right, they don't always break out in a prison movie.
Right.
You could die there, live there.
And there are movies that have a prison break in them that would qualify for prison break that aren't necessarily prison movies.
Sure.
I
Star
think
Wars.
Finding Nemo counts.
Yeah. Wait, Finding Nemo?
Yeah, they get out of the fish tank at the end.
Oh, okay. That's true.
Also, for the record, this was February of 2012. It was episode 101 that we did prison movies. So coming up on, we're half a year away from a whole decade old.
We can revisit it, Matt.
I think we can.
I'm writing it in the
100%.
journal. Prison breaks top 5 to do.
I still want to do Cinemajaw Year 1. Jawheads, if you want to hear that, tweet us, please. Where we recover all the topics we did our first year. Be fun.
Then our next one in here, who played Adrian Brody's brother in The Brothers Bloom? Ryan was right on the money with this one. It was Mark Ruffalo.
Yes, Mark Ruffalo,
100%.
Rachel Weisz, Adrian Brody. Brothers Bloom, it flies under the radar for a lot of people. I don't think everybody has seen it out there. Well worth a spin. It's a fun one.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. I've never seen it.
Was that everything, Phil?
That's all we got in here.
All right, jump back in there.
Can do.
Matt Questlove of The Roots makes his directorial debut with the best documentary I have seen so far this year. Music, history, civil rights. Summer of Soul has it all. This is a film you don't just see, you feel it.
6 weekends of major artists.
The Panthers were the security and kids were sitting up on the trees. I was nervous.
I didn't expect a crowd like that. Something very important was happening. It wasn't just about the music.
1969 was a change of era in the black community.
The styles were changing.
Music was changing.
And revolution was coming together.
We are a new people. We are a beautiful people.
That concert took my life from black and white into color.
This wonderful documentary that is currently in theaters and streaming on Hulu examines the 1969 Harlem Cultural Festival, which was held at Mount Morris Park in Harlem, that lasted for 6 weekends back in 1969. Despite large attendance and performers such as Stevie Wonder, The Fifth Dimension, Gladys Knight and the Pips, and Sly and the Family Stone, the festival was seen as obscure in pop culture, something that the documentarians investigate. Let's start with the cosmetics here. The footage looks amazing. They must have cleaned it up and restored a lot of it, but the colors are vibrant and the film is full of life. The sound, a crucial component of a music doc, is amazing here. This thing rocked the screening room. Opens up with Stevie Wonder in the rain, jamming out like only Stevie can do. Now onto the structure of the film. Questlove knows what he is doing. We get explanation about the fest and how it came to be. Then, as we start to see highlights of the acts that played, we get a handful of things. Sometimes we learn about the band or performer that played the fest. Other times, a performer starts to talk about the relevance of the fest, and in particular, the summer of 1969 when it came to civil rights and black culture in the country. Questlove weaves in history lessons with emotion behind them. Many times we hear stories, but don't feel them. In Summer of Soul, we feel them big time. The music is arranged in the perfect order. By the time we get to Sly and the Family Stone, the hair on my arms was standing straight up. This is not just the best documentary I've seen in 2021, but it's also one of the best films of the year, period.
Wow.
Seek this one out, Matt. I was a huge, huge fan.
I know. And truth be told, a little behind the scenes here, this screening was at the same time as Black Widow.
I know.
So I couldn't see it. How did you see it? Did you see it streaming?
Well, let's pull the curtain way back here, Matt. Yes, I ended up emailing the rep saying that I couldn't make it. I didn't say it was because of Black Widow. I just said, hey, see, that might have got you X'd off, because I said I just can't make the screening on Monday. Didn't mention Black Widow, and then they wrote back, we can get you a screening link. And I said, yes, I'm interested. And so they ended up sending me a screening link.
Don't they know we're on the same podcast? Because they didn't send me the link.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, it's out now on Hulu for you to watch.
I'm going to have to watch this.
Really quick, jaw-dropping moment. I mentioned it there. Sly and the Family Stone singing Everyday People hits right at the right time. I mean, just one of the best moments of 2021 for sure in film. It's the kind of magical moment in movies that I live for. These are the moments I love.
What city did the festival take place in?
In New York, in Harlem.
Okay. Wow.
And I mean, some of the scenes of all the people. In 1969. And I think they say there's somewhere between like 30 and 50,000 people per weekend that would show up.
That's a big fest.
That was going. It was massive. And I mean, it's just awesome to see that they restored all the footage. It's so great. And in fact, that goes into my movie poster quote, which is just this: I'm so happy this film exists.
Wow.
I'm so glad they found the footage, restored it, and it marks this great moment that took place in 1969. Hope everybody gets a chance to see this one. 4 Jaws, Matt K, for the Summer of Soul. 4 Jaws.
Wow. One of the best movies of the year.
You heard it?
Wow.
Check it out on Hulu.
Excited to see this one.
Definitely. All right, Matt, we also caught another movie. It's playing exclusively on HBO Max. It is entitled No Sudden Move. It has a very large cast. It's directed by Steven Soderbergh, who retired about 12 years ago.
Right, yeah. Steven Soderbergh is the Kiss of filmmaking.
I mean, he's probably made now about 8 movies since he's retired, which is great. But the plot summary for this off of Google is, in 1954 Detroit, small-time criminals are hired to steal a document. When their heist goes horribly wrong, their search for who hired them and for what purpose sends them through all echelons of race-torn, rapidly changing city. I had a hoot with this one. Very authentic looking and feel to the movie, and the cast was superb. Matt, what'd you think of No Sudden Move?
So, all right, it's set in Detroit. It revolves around the auto industry and secrets they were protecting at the time. It takes place in the 40s, so it's a period piece, right? Or maybe the late 30s.
I actually have it here. 1954 Detroit.
Oh, really?
It's 1954 Detroit.
Okay, so we have still the 40s style cars, those sort of like phantom looking cars.
I think they were 50s too.
Maybe, but early 50s, right? So this is 54.
Yeah, so like 50, 52.
You're just starting to get a little taste of the 60s with the way that the women dress, but it's very like Mad Men and everything that's going on. Don Cheadle, Brendan Fraser, who, yes, folks, Brendan Fraser is back, and he brought more of him to the table.
Many pounds more.
Boy, did he.
He looked awful. I hate to say that, but he really did pack on the pounds.
For all we know, he's lost weight because we haven't seen him in so long, But the cast is deep. Benicio Del Toro, hello. Dude, Matt Damon pops up in the way that Matt Damon pops up, right? I mean, that's his shtick now. He's like the Stan Lee of movies. Like, let's do the list real quick. He pops up in Interstellar, right? He pops up in. Give me another one, right? I mean, he always just pops up.
Well, makes a very small cameo in one of the MCU movies.
In Thor Ragnarok. Yeah. So, I mean, that's like Matt Damon's new thing. And here he is, like, there's no warning. You don't know Matt Damon's going to be there. Boom, all of a sudden, Matt Damon's there.
Speaking of popping up, a cast member you haven't mentioned is Ray Liotta. He comes up about midway through this movie, and I wrote down in my journal, Ray Liotta should pop up in every movie halfway through because I think he just enhances everything. He's the best.
It might be one of Ray Liotta's better roles because he's been sort of just popping up in Adam Sandler flicks, so... It was nice to see him in a more serious role.
Very early on in the movie, these guys got to go to a house to quote-unquote babysit. Mm-hmm. And it's Don Cheadle, Benicio Del Toro, and they wear these masks that are... it's almost like that superhero, the Green Hornet, would wear.
Oh, yeah. Very bad domino masks, but
Right.
they were white instead of black.
I love the look of those masks when they're in the house, and there's a line in there where the mother says to the son, they wouldn't hurt us because they're wearing masks, meaning, you know.
Right. They're going to leave you alone because otherwise they wouldn't be concerned about their identity.
Right. And then that comes up later when one of them isn't wearing a mask. They know they're sort of about to be in trouble.
Yeah.
Now, I like the whole pyramid scheme with these small-time crooks keep going up, and the money keeps getting higher and higher as the job keeps going up, right? So at first, they're very excited by about $5,000. By the end of this thing, we're talking about over like $130,000. They've climbed the ladder.
Yeah.
Yes. And it just keeps going up. I enjoyed seeing how high this thing went.
Yeah, that was kind of fun too. I agree, man.
One other person, did you already mention John Hamm is in this movie? I don't think you did.
No, but we said Mad Men, so yeah.
He plays a cop in this movie. Anything 1950s, make sure John Hamm's in it. That's his sweet spot, right?
I agree.
So he was great in there. And also, Matt, another thing I really liked, and a guy you didn't mention, David Harbour is in this movie. He plays the father of this family that gets burglarized, if you will, when they come to babysit. I love the scene where he has to go in, and he's having an affair with the secretary,
right?
And he has to go in, and
like
that's
you do in the 50s.
Yeah, he has to go in to get this list that these guys are after, and the secretary won't let him have the combination to this safe of the boss, and he ends up getting in there. I love that entire sequence.
Yeah, very, very much like, oh man, what's that like pressure cooker Matt Damon movie where he's kind of like always one step behind the law that is really like chasing him? Was that The Informant? You know what I'm talking about?
I love The Informant.
All right. You know who else pops up in this? Bill Duke, who I think most people will be familiar with from his role in The Predator. He's the guy that's, you see him over there through those trees, you know, that guy. Love him. He popped up in Mandy too. And I thought, oh, you know, he's popping up in Mandy. This is probably like his last cameo because he looked pretty bad in Mandy, but he looked great in this. He's the head of the Black Mafia. You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Now that
he's great. I love Bill Duke.
I thought this movie went down very easy. I thought this went down like a beer at happy hour on a Friday. I watched it with like a smile on my face the entire time. I thought everything was on point. A lot of times when you have this large of a cast, somebody's sort of off. I thought everybody was on the right plane. The costumes looked great. The cars, you've mentioned them, were fantastic.
Well, it is Detroit, you know, in the 50s.
And it almost looked like something that would have been in Mr. Miyagi's yard when he was giving those cars away to Danielson. But everything looked great. I mean, the look of the film, the characters were on point. This was one of the better Steven Soderbergh films in the last few years. I was a big fan of No Sudden Move.
The one thing I have to criticize is that the plot gets a little confusing. Because, yes, you mentioned how the crime keeps getting bigger and bigger and it keeps getting away from them. And I sort of had a hard time keeping track of what they had, what the value was, why people wanted them dead, all the ins and outs of this entire, like, there was two different gangs and the auto industry and I just didn't completely stick the landing on exactly how all the dots connected.
See, for me, I mean, I knew I was getting a little confused at points, but it came around enough where it all clicked that it made sense of exactly what was going on.
I think what it is just the movie is fun enough for it, even if it doesn't completely click, that's okay, because there's a lot of fun and tone in it getting there. So I forgive it.
No Sudden Move is streaming exclusively on HBO Max. Matt, how many Jaws?
Oh, I'd give it 2.5 Jaws for sure.
Oh my goodness.
You think that's low?
Yeah, I'm at 3.5 Jaws.
Oh, wow.
I really enjoyed this one.
Might even bump it up to 3, but it was good, but it was confusing for me.
Okay. Jawheads, if you see No Sudden Move and you have Twitter pulled up, shoot us a tweet at Cinemajaw. Let us know what you think of it. I'm 3.5 Jaws. Matt K, only 2.5 Jaws. I think he's way too low on this one.
It was okay.
Tough crowd. Tough crowd. It's been a jam-packed Jaw, Matt, and they all end with some movie trivia. You can hear the music playing
ready.
now. Last week, we gave Phil a week off. We played Stump the Kaminsky.
That's right.
This week, we pit Matt against Phil in Tomorrow War movie trivia. The answer, or at least the clue, will be a movie with tomorrow in the title or war in the title. Phil, you want to go first, or you want to let Matt go first?
Ryan, you already know the answer to this. I'm going first. I especially don't feel particularly confident on this one, so I hope Edge of Tomorrow is in there.
Thank you for reminding me of that one.
Oh, wow. Unbelievable. Let's see where this one starts. You do have a rescue if you need it, guys. Question 1 over to Phil. Here we go.
Tom Cruise
and Emily Blunt star in this Groundhog Day style action movie that came out in 2014, Phil.
Gotta be Pacific Rim, right? Edge of Tomorrow.
That is correct.
Technically, it's live, die, repeat, but okay.
1-0. Phil, question 2 over to Matt K. These are the softballs. Matt, name the actor who plays James Bond in Tomorrow Never Dies.
I mean, it's like a what? 1 in 7 chance?
Right. Tomorrow Never Dies is Pierce Brosnan.
That is correct, Matt K. 1-1. Question 3 over to Phil. Tom Cruise starred in the 2005 remake of War of the Worlds. Who directed it?
I was hoping you were going to give me Dakota Fanning. Directed that one 2005?
2005. Who directed War of the Worlds remake?
I'm sure this is wrong, but it's too early to use the thing. Peter Jackson.
Ooh,
I'm sure that's
boy.
wrong.
Incorrect, Phil. Matt.
Steven Spielberg.
That is correct. Yes. Matt takes the lead 2-1.
Almost
Question
forgot his last
4
name.
is over to him. Matt, name the actor who played the lead, Frank Walker, in the 2015 movie Tomorrowland.
Casamigos himself, George Clooney.
He is rolling, folks. That is correct. 3-1, Matt. Phil, come back strong here. Brad Pitt has made 2 movies with the word war in the title. Name one of them.
World War Z was him, right?
That is. Any guess on the second one?
Fury. No, I have no idea.
We reviewed it here on Cinemajaw.
Warhorse.
War Machine.
War Machine.
Oh.
Yeah. But Phil does get the point. It's 3-2. Question 6 over to Matt. What actor starred as the lead, Colonel William McNamara, in the 2002 movie Heart's War?
2002?
Yeah.
Heart's War? What question number is this?
Number 6.
Man, I have no idea. What's the score?
It is currently 3-2. You're in the lead.
I better get this one. Although I really don't think Phil knows either. All right, I'm going to make a strategic move here, and I'll just make a guess. Okay, Heart's War 2002. Who was hot in 2002? Russell Crowe.
Ooh, that's a good one. But it is incorrect. Phil, you got a chance for a steal here and to tie it up. Who starred in Heart's War?
Oh, I got absolutely nothing. Sean Penn. I have no idea. It sounds like an old people movie.
Phil, you got to come play poker with me sometime.
We're looking for Bruce Willis, guys.
Hey, it is an old people movie.
Bruce Willis.
So not hot.
Different kind of old person, but...
All right, here we are. Question 7. Over to Phil to tie it up. Who plays Jake Gyllenhaal's dad in the movie The Day After Tomorrow?
I'm going to use my rescue on this one.
Wow. Question 7. He goes to the rescue. Your clue is his initials are DQ. And it's not Dairy Queen.
It's Dennis Quaid. I don't know another DQ there is, other than the Queen herself.
He ties it 3-3. Last question over to Matt. He can win it on a walk-off.
Oh,
Matt,
boy.
just last year,
Okay.
Robert De Niro made a movie with Uma Thurman and Christopher Walken. Name the movie.
Well, it's got to have either tomorrow or war in the title. And I think that it might be... All right, well, rescue me, Ryan.
Your clue is, Matt, it's not Dirty Grandpa.
That's the clue?
Yeah.
It's not Dirty Grandpa?
Right.
Come on, man.
Last year?
Yes. But you've mentioned that it either has to have war or tomorrow in the title.
Right.
And I'm telling you it's not Dirty Grandpa. So maybe there's another Grandpa movie.
Oh. I mean, Grandpa War of the Grandfathers, Grandpa Wars.
Very close, but I got to X you on that one. I'm sorry, Matt.
Damn it, come on.
Phil?
I don't think it's Grandpa Tomorrow. That's a typo. I'm going to say Grandpa War singular. There was only one of them.
We were looking for The War with Grandpa. The War with Grandpa. Matt does win this one. Can I get a handshake here, fellas?
Well done,
3-2.
Matt.
Well done. Well done.
If it came down to a tie, we call it a jawbreaker.
Wait, 3-3. Shouldn't that be a tie?
Oh, yeah,
I got Dennis Quaid.
Oh, my God.
I take my handshake back. We're still in the middle of the competition.
Okay.
I apologize.
All right.
I
Well, we can
apologize.
still shake hands.
This is where... not yet, Matt.
Wow.
I am a very
this
bad
wouldn't happen
winner.
on Jeopardy. I apologize. It is 3-3. So this question comes over to Matt K. Better tough guy, De Niro or Walken?
Walken.
No, Ryan's wrong.
It's De Niro.
Matt won this one. I will shake to that.
Here we go. The real jawbreaker is this. For the win, guys. The age of Christopher Walken, closest to. Matt, do you got to guess?
Okay. Christopher Walken is older than Bruce Willis, who is as old as dirt.
But can you give us the answer in your best Christopher Walken?
Guys, if I'm going to guess Christopher Walken's age, you got to think about the watch he hit up his ass. Was that okay? Okay. 67 years old.
Lock him in at 67. I think he just tanked this one. Phil.
Yeah. He was like throwing people off of boats in the 70s or 80s or something. He's way older than that. I'm going for you said 67? I'm saying 75.
Give that one to Phil. He's a winner, boys.
If not in the 80s.
78 for Christopher Walken. 70.
He's timeless, though. He's timeless.
Is he? He just seems like he was always old.
Nah.
What does a young Christopher Walken look like?
Remember when he used to dance and stuff?
No.
In music videos? He's in a Madonna music video.
Well,
true story.
I will say this, Matt. You lost your superpower when it comes to guessing people's ages. You used to be so good at it, and lately you're just off. You're off your game.
You know what it was? It was the Walken impersonation. I did a young Christopher Walken, and that made me think about the young Christopher Walken.
Well, Phil wins this one on an unbelievable jawbreaker.
All right, now we can shake hands.
Now we can shake hands.
Well done. Well
Proudly.
done.
As the winner, I will shake your hand, Matt.
There you go. Brings us to the end of a very fun jaw. Believe it or not, behind the scenes, Elias Rodriguez has appeared at my place. We're about to have some beers together.
The real podcast is just about to begin.
Yes.
Shout it.
Hello.
Hello. Hi, JawHeads.
We're about to have some beers. So, Matt, we got to close down this recording tonight and enjoy
Some PBRs?
That sounds like a plan.
All right.
Before we blow out of here, we got to thank our engineer, our producer, Fill Me In, Phil.
Oh, thank you guys so much. It was a blast. If there's any problems next week, I want to emphasize that it's not my fault. I will be out of town next week.
That is correct, Matt. We're going to fly solo on this.
We'll be fine. Man. We'll be fine.
We also got to thank the sponsors.
Yeah, thanks to Overcast and the Chicago Podcast Co-op who help us get great sponsors like them.
If you want to support Cinemajaw, the easiest way to do so is by leaving us a review wherever you're listening to this podcast.
While you're there, please click subscribe. One extra button helps us out a lot.
And if you want to go one step further, join our Patreon, where we just posted our 80s retro review, number 2, Thief. The third one, Black Rain, is on its way.
Yep, and then we're finishing that series off with The Last Dragon. So get in on this, Jawheads.
Yes, you support the show. Makes us really feel supported when people are joining our Patreon, and you get those bonuses.
Like a good pair of boxer briefs.
Absolutely. Until next week, I'm Rye the Movie Guy.
I'm Matt Kay.
And keep on jawing about the movies.